Okay, back to normal voice. Very simple question from Mike in the UK, aka Boris Man. On Discord, ask Alex, head to Discord. There'll be an invite here, hopefully one that works. That's a permalink. That can be a little tricky with Discord. But Mike's question is a very simple one. Why did Stormgate fail? I mean, it's a simple question. It's not a simple answer. The simplest answer that I have just off the bat is trying to do too much. Right out of the gate, the game was roughly 40 mil, but let's say 37 in dev budget, which for an RTS with just an initial campaign doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. First of all, the expectation is coming from team members that were from Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2. That's the highest bar for real-time strategy, right? And I got a excellent crash course in real-time strategy. Not that I wasn't familiar with it already. I had played through the campaigns of StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2. I played a lot of Warcraft 3, particularly I think it's Frozen Throne, which was the DLC for that, or the additional whatever it is, Frostmourne Hungers. So I had a lot of playtime with those games, and I was familiar with the universes, and I was familiar with the gameplay, and I was a fan of the soundtracks. I had the Protoss being my favorite race as well as my favorite score. All that being said, it's a high bar. And so simply put, the money wasn't enough for presenting a campaign with the kind of cinematic expectations that StarCraft 2 just laid out right away. Now, having said that, it's great to do more with less, right? But I don't think we iterated enough on the more with less, and we tried to do too much with the team that we had and the expectations. But being venture capital, that's the rock and a hard place situation. You've got to promise the moon to investors. They expect the moon, and they expect their ROI to be 5 to 10 times their investment within like a couple of years. That's kind of standard in venture capital, which makes venture capital not the best prospect. If you want to get an angel investor involved, somebody that does not mind losing $50 million just because they are passionate about games and they want to see if a game can succeed or not and are prepared for it to fail, great. And you can probably do a lot more with 50 mil when you don't have this hanging over your head, expectation. Having said that, the music ended up great. We had Na Wang-Chiu doing the Celestial theme, which was incredible. And then there was David Ortega, who did 3v3, Frank Klepacki, who worked on the Infernals, and Tracy Bush, who did the Vanguard main themes, and I did a bunch of music. The stuff that you hear in the main menu, some other stuff. And fans responded really well to that. Like there was this thing that made its way into a Valentine's Day teaser, and people were like, "This is like Halo and Stormgate combined, and it's fantastic." And that was great. Sound design, wholly different, very different. Sound design, as I would learn, we were trying to combine expectations of the future, moving RTS forward with the hardcore, this needs to be just like StarCraft 1 of the past. That was very difficult to do. There were things that got explained in certain ways which made sense, and there were other ones that didn't. In terms of moving forward, I played the new Dune, and working with Stefan Schutz, we were like, hey, let's have it so that you get more detail as you go in and less detail as you go out. And when you have that less detail, you can have the hardcore RTS 1v1 or 3v3 or whatever players getting only the UI feedback that they need, but there's tied into that, there is everything needs to be impactful. Not everything can be impactful. That's opposite of UI information when it comes to sound design. You need differentiation. And it turns out lots and lots and lots of iteration is required on the sound design side. Lots and lots of iteration is required on the mixing side. And in talking with Tracy was like, we just, for StarCraft 1, some of the stuff was library, some was, just making funny noises into a mic. We didn't have this like, incredible amount of deep diving and constant iteration or whatever it was. We did the sounds and that was it. And so what came out of that was a combination of things, working with player feedback, working with team feedback. So that's just the sound design thing. The ultimate reason that it failed is we tried to do too much. We wanted to have an editor. We wanted to have a campaign ready to go. We wanted 3 full races, and we wanted all of that to be tuned. Everything got hit by fans of the original StarCraft. And it turns out that StarCraft 1 is the OG and the best when it comes to the multiplayer crowd, and StarCraft 2 is a little less revered for the sound design anyway. I don't know. I mean, it's played. I think it's played a lot more than multiplayer than than StarCraft 1. But there's just a lot of love for StarCraft 1, and then when it came to sound design, there was a lot of, well, it needs to be this and it needs to be that, and that really fumbled things. That made it muddy in terms of feedback. It led to an awful lot of trying to shotgun attempts at doing the best possible job for every possible sound in terms of impact, trying to work with a mixing system that was still in the formative stages with metasounds. All of those problems meant that we, that we were just doing too much to try to make people happy. So yeah, I think that led to campaign just not being as memorable and story driven and iterated on, limiting things to less cinematic work when there's more cinematic expectation. But honestly, I think that, we were looking at things like Hades and other games that just, didn't have that kind of cinematic presentation that are huge games, right? So we were just going back and forth about that a lot, and trying to do everything as well as we could. And I still believe the core concept is a good one. With angels and demons fighting in a post-apocalyptic Earth setting is something that is compelling to me. It's something I believed in then, and I still believe in it. Execution was different, right? I liked the original art style. Players were just, ugh. I thought, I was pleasantly surprised by how the art style was at the beginning, but then people wanted grittier and, just a little more, less mobile game cartoony, which is how they interpreted it. It's not how I interpreted it. I've worked on a ton of mobile games, and I'm a StarCraft fan, so I did not have that interpretation. But yeah, so lessons learned from that is don't try to do everything. Hindsight is 2020. Tim Morton and Tim Campbell have discussed it extensively. I've talked with the team. I'm still in a Discord with the team. And I've sent apologies for things that I didn't take on board early enough in terms of sound design. Lessons learned. I can't say, oh, just I knew everything from the beginning. I certainly didn't. I would have made very different decisions going in. And I'm glad to have learned those lessons. I'm glad to have them for the future. They're written down. I remember them. I will repeat them. If somebody says, no, we're thinking of this, I'd be like, well, here's what happened. Working with the team was excellent. There were issues, of course. And there were some headaches, and there were some headaches from butting heads. I'll just put it that way. But I've had much worse in games in terms of relationships that sour and people that resent each other and all that sort of thing. I did not come away from the project with, filled with deep-seated hate for people or anything like that. I know where people were coming from. And in the moment, yes, we wanted to wring each other's necks because of our disagreements, but I take a look back. I'm just like, yeah, I would still probably make, a lot of the same statements, but there's a few things I'd change about my own actions. Got to take responsibility for things. We don't see enough of that in the world today. So yeah, I learned some valuable lessons about getting player feedback, about trying to use certain language of figuring out, okay, let's try it this way. But I'm also, also being the audio director, I need to take that feedback and say, like, this is the decision, which I did a lot, and there were still things that came at me from players and hardcore players alike. But anyway, I wished Stormgate could have done better. I would have loved to see it grow into a huge franchise. Players can be challenging, and players can say things that hurt a lot. Um, I'm pretty sure that's not because they sit in front of a computer and think, I'm going to ruin someone's life today and I don't like them. It's their way of communicating about something they're passionate about. The impact may not be considered, it probably isn't at the outset of when they sit down on Reddit and these other places. So that was, I think, the most important learning experience is that player feedback is a core part of game development now. Just interfacing with players as you're developing a game is a thing. And I think that's great, especially when it's constructive and you have people that are saying, why not try this? I've got people on Discord making all kinds of great suggestions. I may not get to everything. I may not have time for everything. Of course not. It's because the lines of communication open a lot more, but it's great compared to this walled garden. So I like that. I like that that's something that came out of that. And that's something that I want to do in dev going forward for sure. But yeah, we're not in a world where we can throw millions of dollars at something without the knowledge or without the possibility that it might just all go pew. That's been films, that's been games, that's been books. It doesn't matter what kind of thing. You have to be prepared to iterate while you're doing it. But when it goes out to the public, if they take it on and they throw money at it, great. Not many games do that these days. So I think a lot of people are stepping back and let's set our expectations a bit lower. Let's really try to focus on some core stuff rather than the kitchen sink. And I hope that influences AAA, because AAA has been learning those hard lessons for a really long time. The market has been difficult for years now, and it's changing. It needs to reinvent itself. I think more independent productions will be more successful, and I'm looking forward to that. And I think AAA will also, be a little less focused on, the precise details of leaves at every moment that the player is playing versus what is their engagement? What's the adaptive ability of the game to respond to player action? And moving forward, what is the next big thing other than a screen? Is it going to be VR? Is it going to be holodecks? I'm ready for that journey as well. And yes, AI is going to be a part of it in some way. And I think that it's scary and that it is threatening creatives, but there's potential for things where every single time I'm working on a game and every day there's examples of this. Oh, wait, I can't log into that. I can't see this. I can't, but why do we have to put up with this if there's new technology that can help us around these headaches, right? Just as I said in a Slack channel, the pain points of our creative process are things that we need to point to and go, can AI help with this so that I don't have to deal with it anymore? Can it help me iterate? And Aaron Brown, one of the best game audio professionals I know working today, I mean, there's quite a few of those, but like, man, Aaron Brown's awesome, has been saying, hey, personally, AI is helping me in terms of, organization and certain specific parts of my process. It's really helping. Not, hey, I'm typing in a prompt and creating my songs or my sounds. But we're all nervously talking about it because we don't want people to interpret us as saying just like, oh, it's going to change the world and we're going to fire everybody. Why would anyone say that? Like, we'd be pointing the finger at ourselves and putting ourselves in that same pool. I've been talking a while, but good question, Mike. Really appreciate it. And yeah, that's my thoughts on Stormgate. I thought it was a great experience for me. It was extremely unfortunate that it happened the way it did, but that's video games. That's projects that you're on. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and the players don't adopt it. You don't make the money, and you move on. The same goes for films every day, and TV shows, and whatever you want to call it. So I was lucky to have been able to work with the people that I did, the composers, the Stefan Schutz, the Herculean stuff that guy did, and the team. So yeah, thanks for the question, and yeah, real meaty one today. So I'll see you on the next one.